Good afternoon. Is it still morning for some of us? It's morning for some of us somewhere. I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen. I'm the editor and VP of Streaming Media, and welcome to day 2 and the fourth panel, I've lost track already, of Streaming Media East Connect. This is our biggest Streaming Media Connect event yet, and it's our 4th, and we're looking forward to being back in person in Huntington Beach in November. I'm knocking on wood as we speak. I think there's definitely some excitement for the ability to get back together in person, along with some trepidation, but we're planning it, and we're planning on doing it as safely as we can. So go to streamingmedia.com/west for more information about the upcoming in-person Streaming Media event. As always, the archives for all of our sessions for Streaming Media Connect will be available on our YouTube channel within a day or two of each event. You can find that link in the chat, and you can also go to the streamingmedia.com homepage and click on the videos link and get to them there. Couple of housekeeping notes. We are going to keep the chat open, but we do request that if you have any questions for our panelists, that you put them in the Q&A tab. And then toward the end of the hour, Magnus, our moderator, will pass things over to me, and I will bring those audience questions to the panelists. I'd like to thank our diamond sponsor for Streaming Media East Connect, Signiant, and we have a short video message from them now.
When the director calls action.
And action.
When the game is on.
Pick it up, it's good.
Or it's time to save the universe again. Media Shuttle is there. Trusted by more than 25,000 media companies, Media Shuttle delivers, making it easy and secure to send any size file anywhere fast. The journey begins with Media Shuttle portals, customized and branded for any project and designed to be so easy, your end users will love it. All while giving operations teams complete control through a simple yet powerful admin interface. Add users, set permissions, customize file delivery specs, and report on all activity. Blast off with proprietary acceleration technology. Media Shuttle moves your content anywhere in the internet-connected world at hyper speeds. Along the way, your files are protected. Our commitment to enterprise-grade security has made Media Shuttle a preferred tool with Hollywood studios, major sports leagues, broadcasters, and more. With Media Shuttle, your files are never handed over to Signiant. File movement is orchestrated between the end user's workstation and your storage, whether on-prem or in the cloud. Your IT team simply provisions your storage, connecting it to the Media Shuttle cloud service, and Signiant handles the rest. Get started on your Media Shuttle journey today, a journey without limits.
I would also like to thank the sponsor of this panel, SSIMWAVE, and SSIMWAVE's Carlos Hernandez will be joining this panel discussion in just a moment. And I can't think of anyone better to moderate a session about OTT workflow best practices than Magnus Svensson. Magnus, welcome. In addition to running,
Eric.
Hey, good to see you. Now, in addition to running Eyevinn Technologies, Magnus and his team put together the amazing Streaming Tech Stockholm event each year, or at least each year when there are events in person. So I'm looking forward
when we can, we'll do. So
yes, excellent. I'm looking forward to hopefully joining you for one of those soon. And I will just pass the mic over to you because I know you've got a lot to cover.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. And let me know if there are popping in questions that we need to handle along the way. So OTT workflow is a bit more complicated than ever. I think it was the title of the panel, and I know pretty much about OTT workflows during my career. So, but I'm really happy to have a panel with expert here to help me. My name is Magnus Hansen. I work at Eyevinn Technology as an independent consultant for streaming and streaming specialists. We are working with major media companies, broadcasters, operators, startups, and tech vendors across the world with streaming specialists, and both with technical due diligences, vendor selection, as well as we have most of us are actually video specific developers, so we can help working out the workflows. But as I said, I'm happy to have a panel that will help me guide you through the bits and pieces of the OTT workflow. So I will leave the word to each of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll get going. So let's start with Abhishek. Let me know who you're.
Hi, happy to be here. I'm Abhishek Neralla. I work at Eyevinn Television Networks, and I'm the director of media services at A&E. So in my role, I manage and set up workflows which power our streaming apps across a wide variety of platforms. And we are also increasingly getting into distribution and fast channels. So it's a complicated world out there, and I'm happy to be on this panel.
Great. I hope we can get some great insights from you. How about you, Jack? What's your role and what you're doing?
Thank you, Magnus. Hey, I'm Jack Hurley. I'm a Director, Content and Technical Operations at Cinedigm Entertainment. Cinedigm Entertainment is a distributor of content across many different business models, TVOD, AVOD, SVOD, most recently, and importantly, fast OTT. Yeah, I manage our digital supply chain. I also oversee technical onboarding of new clients and distribution partners. So very happy to be amongst these gentlemen talking about it today.
Great, thank you, Jack. Looking forward. And finally, our sponsor representative, Carlos. Reveal yourself.
Hi, Magnus, and hi, everybody. It's a pleasure being here with you. And yeah, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at SSIMWAVE. So we provide video experience automation. So basically, we use the simplest core to add an intelligence layer to workflows and to help managing them more efficiently and at a lower cost. So at the end of the day, we help them manage your experience and help them improve customer satisfaction and viewership while reducing churn and costs. So the big balance we all want.
Excellent. Good. I thought we should start with a bit of an introduction when it comes to the topic itself and what we're actually talking about. So my first question to you guys, one at each time, will be: what is an OTT workflow for your business, and what do you define as an OTT workflow? Let's start with the same order like Abhishek. What is an OTT workflow for your business, and what do you define as OTT?
Yeah, from our perspective, there are multiple workflows, and which would all come under the umbrella of an OTT workflow. The most typical one of which would be we get content from our production studios, and we get, in which case we get both metadata as well as the actual video media files. We ingest them into our video management service, and then we go through the process of transcoding those videos. We use like a ABR stack. So we generate multiple renditions for each. We get those videos in the form of MP4s, and we create multi-bitrate renditions of each of those videos, and then we put them up on our storage origins. And we have like a multi-origin framework. We have content on S3, and we also have essentially the same content on Akamai Net Storage. And finally, we come to deliver content through our TUE4. So we primarily use Fastly and Akamai, and using like a multi-CDN strategy for delivery. So that would be like our primary workflow for our O&O, owned and operated sites and apps. Lately, we've been getting more interest in distributing our content to third parties, to the Rokus and the Amazons of the world. And in addition to which, there are now fast channels with water live playouts. And we also send, our content for, content claiming purposes, as part of our anti-piracy concerns. So onto YouTube and Facebook, Dailymotion, and those places as reference files. So pretty much, these three areas I would say would be the primary focus of our workflow.
Cool. It sounds like you're covering a lot of things with redundancy. It sounds good. What about you, Jack? Are you having a similar setup or a bit different depending on your business?
Yeah, certainly similar. Yeah, I could definitely relate to a lot of what Abhishek just mentioned. So yeah, I guess since we're a distributor, we're working off of finished goods that are being licensed. So yeah, just like Abhishek said, we're getting in metadata, we're getting in video, closed captions, most importantly, ad breaks for monetization. All these things are basically getting compiled after the initial handoff from acquisitions to my content operations team. And that's kind of an important piece of the puzzle for us because we are not only necessarily working on FAST, we're also working potentially on TVOD. Some of these deals have all rights. So, you know, we can monetize in a vast array of different ways. And that kind of does, you know, affect what we're asking of the licensor as far as deliverables are concerned. I won't go too in depth into that, but yeah, essentially same deal. Once the handoff happens from acquisitions to content ops, we intake the content, basically do cursory automated QC checks because we communicate a spec guide that is largely created based upon the specs of our distribution partners, right? We're just kind of gatekeeping that to ensure that our deliverables pass muster at their QC. So, you know, a lot of the things that we ask for, some of our partners are like, why do I need to give you that? It's like, because you do, unfortunately. But yeah, once all that happens, gets ingested into our supply chain software that we kind of made homegrown, that we're very proud of. It's called Matchpoint. That handles everything from automated QC to the initial, you know, rendition files. So HLS, H.264, et cetera, off of the original ProRes RAW. It acts as a MAM, a DAM, as well as packaging and fulfillment. So pretty much everything happens within that system. And I could kind of go more in depth later on about how that's allowed us to achieve a very, very lean team and a highly scalable workflow. But that is kind of the, you know, our tech stack, so to speak, to go from raw deliverables to distributable masters.
Yeah, sounds fairly similar to Abhishek's, and then what I see is most of the workflows are today. So Carlos, how can you enlighten us with as a vendor perspective of this?
Right, we don't have a workflow ourselves, but we help our customers to manage theirs. And the question that we find more often is how to make it better and how to connect the creator intent with the viewer. Sometimes, I mean, we just heard how complex and how large the workflows can be, and the question is how we connect the viewer with the creator and transmit that experience and those emotions that are going to make that difference. And that's what we do. We try to help them with that, and we adapt to those workflows. So we see workflows in all shapes and forms, and I guess nothing to add to what Jack and Abhishek just mentioned. And that's we see those type of workflows on a daily basis.
Cool. I will come back to most of these topics that we have discussed. So I wanted to start a little bit from the first entry point of the OTT workflow when it comes, it's the supply chain and how to ingest content and how to get it in the different formats. And I know that's not trivial because there is so many different formats and file specs and options out there. So maybe you, Jack, can give us a little bit of the background of the ingest flow and the supply chain and how complicated it might be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it could get very complicated. We've done a great deal to make it as seamless as possible because, like I said, since we're working with, a plethora of different clients with varying degrees of technical prowess, we try to really break it down to very consumable details. So we asked for a ProRes 422 HQ master, pretty much industry standard at this point. We asked for that, not necessarily because our end platforms need it, but mostly because that's a nice input to ensure that you're getting the highest level video in, so that your rendition files in turn look as good as they can. So you're not transcoding a transcode. But yeah, SCC closed captions, we also, require those on ingest. We certainly do make SRT, VTT, and TTML off of those per platform spec, but we just decided as a mezzanine package, ProRes and SCC work best for us. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, you're just taking those in and then you're transcoding them down to whatever platform specs you're delivering to. What we've found is most people at this stage, if they don't accept or if they don't want ProRes, then they will accept a high level H.264. So we've programmed that into our tech stack that gets transcoded automatically when we ingest content, along with an H.264 with embedded captions to satisfy some cable lab specifications.
What are the most common problems in that area, and how do you solve them? Do you have automated quality checks before they come in, or how do you, and what are the most common mistakes that's done by the content owners? Yeah, so we within our ingest workflow, kind of the first point, well, I mean, if we're signing on a new licenser, we mandate that they do a test file with us, or a handful of them, just so we can gauge, a spectrum of, we actually ask them, give us a sample of your lowest quality SD file and your highest quality HD file, so we can gauge, what, lay of the land and what we're going to be receiving. Once we pass tests, which is kind of where we discuss things of this nature, like, I mean, I've seen it all, honestly. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So, things like bad macro blocking, color banding. I mean, as I've seen files that just have horrible picture breakup, audio pops. Really, all these things just shake out to just the difference of somebody who actually cares about their process for storing their masters, like librarian services, versus people who don't care to go to a mezzanine with their stuff. Up-resing as well, I've seen a lot. So taking an H.264 file and then re-exporting it as ProRes. It's like, you can't really fool us. We see the macro blocking in there. So things like that. But yeah, all these things, like I said, it's really important to go to test file before you just open your floodgates and say, okay, deal is signed, please send us all your stuff, just so you can address these things, so that it's way easier to deal with 5 files versus 500, so. Cool. Anything you want to add, Abhishek, in your pipeline, and how you protect yourself and getting the best quality in?
Yeah, what additional problems we face could be to do with like ad blacks, and where you need to have your cue points set on, especially on our AVOD content. And we could rely on humans actually going in there and putting in an exact, say, frame accurate time code in there. And the complication also is that we, for our SSAI content, we need our content to be preconditioned, for our partners to ingest it. So those time codes have to be really accurate. And we've seen problems where the human entered values varied significantly from where the actual black was. So we had to put in procedures around detecting for those ad blacks and automating that process.
But you're doing that at ingest point and not discover that later through the pipeline.
Yeah, we're doing it at the ingest point once we get in the mezzanine.
And Abhishek, do you work off of stitched episodes, or you're saying that you actually have like encoded black ad slugs?
Yeah, we have like a 2-second black, within the MP4, and typically we put in like a cue point time right at the middle of that 2-second black. So that's the expectation, but it's always prone to human error.
Right. Yeah, I asked because we have a similar issue, and it kind of it's based upon the fact that some people require ad breaks or mid-roll ad cues, whichever we want to define it as. Some people require it in milliseconds, others require it in frames. So sometimes things get lost in translation.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also have like third-party distribution partners who insist that those blacks be no greater than 2 seconds, and that's a quality control issue, especially on our legacy content where where we have like blacks for like 4 or 5 seconds, and it's and then going back and fixing all those was a challenge.
But you have automated most of this, so you're detecting everything at the ingest point and correcting it, or you have both. I guess you have both measures to correct and also to send back to get corrected.
So we if we have a process which detects those, identifies those blacks, runs a bunch of checks to see what the duration of the black is, and if it's greater than say 2 seconds, the process itself chops off the black basically on either side, and then stitches back the video together such that it just the whole thing conforms to the 2 second specification. So it's an automated process.
That's good. The more you can correct in the beginning, you have gains later on, that's for sure. Moving on to sort of a lean workflow and how to get all this to scale. And I know that Carlos had quite some experience in this area. So maybe Carlos, you can lead us into that subject a bit.
Certainly, and perhaps adding into what was just mentioned is, so we incorporate the viewer experience into measuring quality, and the viewer is going to be consuming the content. So why letting bad sources enter into a workflow? So the first approach we take is just controlling that no bad sources get in and get processed. The workflow is expensive, the pipeline is, and we want to deliver on time. So the 3 main issues that we find that customers really want to solve. The first one is eliminate assets reprocessing. It is obviously expensive. It creates a lot of inefficiencies, and basically they want to reduce the cost and the timing uncertainty. Because when they have to reprocess, then they have commitments that need to deliver. So timing and efficiencies is one. The other is to gain control of the quality, again, from source to mezzanine, ABR ladders, and even to the player device. And the third one is to having the potential to select resource allocation depending on the conditions you are delivering. So if you are doing pivot or fast, you may want to target different quality levels, because you want to have a different cost structure for that. So you can adapt it to geographies. So those are the 3 main issues that we find. One is efficiencies, the other is quality, and the other is adaptability to different content geographic conditions.
Excellent. I agree. It's coming back to that, whatever you get in, it's hard to correct along the way. So you need to be right from the beginning. So Jack, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I would say as far as achieving a lean workflow and scalability from a distribution standpoint, it really comes down to, like, as far as KPIs are concerned, how long does it take a team to take the content from raw deliverables to fully ingested and distributable? That's one KPI that's tracked. And the benefit of that is if you track that, then you can understand at a pretty granular level, do you have a staffing issue, or is there not enough people to work on this? Do you have a technology issue? Is your machine just not working quick enough to meet demand? So that's like one major KPI that we track. Sorry, I made a couple notes over here. Oh yeah, so also alongside that, QC rejections, potential QC rejections at platforms that you distribute onto. So if you take those 2 and couple them together, if you're flying through your ingest process, but then you're getting a ton of rejections when you deliver out to partners, it's like, okay, something's gravely wrong here. So let's take a harder look at what we're doing. So that's kind of mostly what we're looking at from a high level to gauge the health of our entire supply chain. And then as far as scalability is concerned, I mean, like I said, we've invested pretty heavily in technology to mitigate the potential for human error, because especially like it's kind of the Wild West. Everybody has their own specification, despite the fact that there is a unified spec in like Cable Labs or like EMA. Certainly there are unified specs, but it is, everybody likes to put their own flavor on things. So the less human intervention in that process, the better. If the machine handles most of the file processing, the manipulation of the data, then you're able to scale infinitely, because once the machine gets it right the first time, it's going to get it right every other time, as long as you've programmed your variables correctly.
Agree, and that would solve the reprocessing issue. What we hear very often is that if there's an issue reported in the field, then it comes back and then you're tracing like where the issue happened. And sometimes if that is not stored and quantified, there are no analytics around it, then it's going to be very hard and very inefficient to track. So we measure reprocessing events and time to medium time to resolution. And those really can impact, as we all said, if you don't measure it, you cannot manage it. So using that experience and the quality in a centralized way has made a significant improvement in scalability and quality for our customers.
Yeah.
You mentioned you both measure quite a lot. How often do you sort of use the measurements? Are you having alarms when you reach a threshold, or are you evaluating the workflow regularly, or trying to improve, or how do you work with the measurements?
Yeah, I can go first. So I host weekly meetings with my team, and they will tell you very exhaustively, go over pretty much every delivery that we make for the week. And we, especially things that are problematic, we handle that at the front end of the meeting. So anything that went wrong, we talk about why it went wrong. We address like, was this a human issue or was it a machine issue? And if it was a machine issue, then we put it onto our development call that we have with engineering, which is also weekly. So we, and that's kind of, I guess, a good segue in that, especially in this space, it moves so quickly that we all in turn have to be able to pivot, on the drop of a dime to solve these complex issues.
Absolutely. Anything to add, Carlos?
Yeah, in our case, we enable real-time monitoring and alarming and correlating different sort of issues. So if you have an encoder that has certain limitations for a specific type of content or for a specific channel, we can detect that. We can alarm in whether you're having an issue at a certain point in time and report that. So from our perspective, the way to scale and optimize costs and the operation is really having a real-time visibility with dashboards that tell you basically what situation may be happening and how to react to it. So I would say real-time is the way to go, mostly when you have to scale globally.
Excellent. Moving on a bit into the chain, and my experience is that one of the hardest part of an OTT workflow is maybe outside a little bit the workflow itself, but reach all the devices out there and the numerous amount of devices out there with numerous versions of operating systems and gears and models and whatever you have there. So Abhishek, how do you work with the device reach and qualifying devices and the flora that's out there?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, we increasingly seen that right now most of our viewing, significant chunk of our viewing is happening on connected TVs, I guess, with everyone staying at home and watching, and like everyone seems to be having their own operating system and ways of doing things. So yeah, I mean, we've been trying to streamline as much as possible upstream before delivery, having as much, having like a common pipeline which we can control without having to make code changes in multiple places. So one of the things we've done recently is like unifying our code bases, abstracting out common components and putting them up so that they are reusable across all these platforms. And essentially, having all these devices just be like, just play HLS essentially. So just pushing all the programming logic upstream. And, we've also see like testing, there is testing considerations. So we've got a lean team of QA testers who test across these different devices, and we're leading quite a lot on analytics, to provide us data of how things are going, as far as QoS and QoE metrics are concerned, broken down across all these platforms.
Yeah, it's definitely a pain point, and it keeps moving as well. New versions popping up and new devices popping up. Anything that is done on the technology side, Carlos, to help out with this and ease these things?
Yeah, two main things. I think what Abhishek said on analytics is crucial, and how to represent your experience is very important, because you don't need to deliver the same type of content for a QLED TV like 72-inch to that cell phone, but also you want the same bit rate. If you are in a geography that has limited network conditions, wireless network, for instance, you also don't like more bit rate is actually not better. So by managing those analytics and to have what are the network conditions and the viewing conditions of the content, then you can incorporate all that data to make the decisions on how to package and how to define what your target in terms of bit rates and quality would be for each type of content and each geography. So viewing conditions are fundamental. So we believe that the advance on not only rely on network conditions as a leading indicator to what the real quality is very important, because network conditions may give you some idea of what's going on, but you really need to know how the content is being viewed by the customer. So I think the progress on that front is going to be very exciting. We're seeing the results now, and it's going to keep evolving very quickly.
Excellent. Anything that can help in this area was definitely appreciated. Moving on a bit, when it comes to the trend that we've seen for the last years now with the fast channel creation, we have virtual linear channels, and it seems like the lean back TV experience is maybe coming back again from taking a little bit back from the on-demand solutions. Jack, you probably know most of this since you've probably been there the longest in this panel. So how do you see the fast market is growing, and how big part of the paper business is it for you?
Yeah, it's definitely a huge part of our business now. It's something that we're making a humongous push into over the past, I would say, like 3 years. We've really been endeavoring to become, just a major force in the channelized fast OTT space. Right now, our company manages 10 channels concurrently. So those are feeds that we actually host with Amagi, who is our tech partner who hosts those for us. And they're carried, each channel is carried across probably like, 5 to 7 different connected devices, TVs, or services. So we do quite a lot of that. I would say, one thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was pretty interesting is I read an article that 27% as of current census is 27% of US customers of cable TV are planning to cut the cord by year's end, 2021. And right now, based on that same census, 68% of TV viewing is actually streaming services, or OTT streaming services, which I thought was pretty damn interesting, personally. But yeah, I mean, as far as fast channel creation, really our ingest pipeline is exactly the same. The only added complexity is that the product is the channel. The product isn't really the underlying content. So marketing becomes more pointed and very different when you're marketing a channel versus marketing the content.
Are there any technical challenges or gains by doing this way, or distributing traditional linear channels, or?
So the gain is when you're distributing something as a channel, especially as a linear channel, the delivery method is amazing because you're just giving somebody usually a link. You're giving them an M3U8 playlist link, as opposed to, you know, me dropping, you know, 5,000 assets, bot assets on somebody via Aspera or AWS S3. So yes, the path to market is considerably quicker on that front, but then you have to factor in things like planning your programming, you know, getting all of your graphics elements together, and basically creating the product. So somewhat becomes a wash in the end, despite the fact that you have a lot of time savings on delivery.
Yeah. Are there any differences between the different endpoints, so to say? Do they have different specs that you need to follow when it comes to graphics and formats and bit rates and?
Some do for sure. I would say that there are many that will take a main feed, which kind of is a unified spec for us. Others, yeah, I mean, I could say that there are some that go very, very strictly by their style guide, kind of much to our chagrin. I'm not going to name names, but yeah, there are some partners that very, you know, they require very strict adherence, and that does become a challenge because since we are a distributor of, you know, many different licensors across many different platforms, we always try to basically go the one size fits all approach, and we do so by asking for probably more data than we will need for any one channel or any one platform, but combined, you know, that's why we need all of it. So yeah, I will say there's definitely complexities, and I would like, you know, pie in the sky request would be for more of a unified spec as far as it comes to, you know, just unified metadata delivery, unified specs for graphics elements, so like interstitials and ad breaks, things of that nature. I think it's all really predicated on the platform's UI UX choices, which is why it will be, you know, a hard fought effort to get there, but we'll see.
Cool. Abhishek, anything you can add with your experience?
Yeah, I mean, like, in addition to technical specs, there could be business reasons. Each of these distribution partners, say some would not like, say, an opening graphic saying that this is a history channel presentation or things like that. You know, so you would have to maintain different copies of the same mezzanine. You know, one to go on your O&O and one to go on you know, fast. And then there's that branding aspect. Then there's complications around, you know, at least the providers that we've worked with, they don't support things like, you know, having audio description tracks in the content which we distribute to fast, you know, which is increasingly becoming, you know, becoming a requirement, at least in the O&O space. So there's that challenge to solve too.
These are ad funded. So Abhishek, are there anything to think of when it comes to the ad techs around this, and any new interesting challenges when it comes to ad markers, ad insertion of the fast pipeline compared to the traditionals?
So as far as the fast distribution is concerned, we're handling, you know, we're essentially giving our MP4s over via a feed to our, you know, to our provider, to our client who's doing the encoding basically, and then they're doing the hard part of like inserting those ad markers. So from our perspective, it's been relatively easier.
That's something. That's something in there. Carlos, anything to add when it comes to monetization and quality of the ad insertion parts? Can you assist there to make it an easier path? You're on mute, Carlos.
Of course, someone had to do it. So
yeah, exactly. I was waiting for it. It took longer.
So no, certainly. I was looking at some studies recently on how's the behavior of consumption of AVOD versus kind of other types of distribution, and it seems that adults are starting to consume more AVOD services during weekdays. I mean, you're tired, you just don't want to make more decisions, too many decisions for the day, so you just want to enjoy. So we believe that consumer engagement and providing that experience to customers is fundamental, but it's also very important to measure it. I mean, the longer they stay and they are enjoying, and the more you can connect with the audience, obviously, the more content they're going to consume, the more ads they're going to watch. And so long that you can maintain that engagement with the viewers and you can measure it. And the obvious point that was, how do you really take advantage of any ad placement opportunity you have? And that is hard because the ad breaks and the standards are there, but not necessarily everybody follows them. So that's a tricky one. So the more technology is able to help into taking advantage of those ad placements, but also keeping the viewer engaged, then I think that's a very powerful combination that we're trying out with.
Yeah. Redundancy has been mentioned a couple of times by, I think, all of you actually. So how do you secure with redundant input sources? Do you have redundancy in transcoding and all these type? How do you secure that if a pipeline breaks, that you're still delivering what you're supposed to deliver? Any thoughts there, Jack?
Yeah, so we leverage cloud for our stuff. We used to go on-prem, but we did away with that, I would say, probably like 5 years ago. So we're fully on the cloud. And candidly, we're on AWS. I think I mentioned that already. But we do our redundancy. So we have our workflow that we designed is after the ingest pipeline happens, the files sit on S3, where they kind of are able to be tangible, of course, because if you know about, the difference between S3 and Glacier. Glacier is cold storage, so Glacier is considerably cheaper, but you have to restore to S3 if you want to actually touch the file. So everything goes into an S3 holding pen waiting to get distributed. Once it is distributed widely, and we kind of consider project end, it goes to Glacier for long-term storage. So we don't do true redundancy, so we don't save like a secondary copy of every single thing in our back catalog, but we do kind of rely on Amazon's SLAs where they're 99.99% up. So, that's kind of what we do. We leverage 3 different CDNs. So we leverage Limelight, Akamai, and CloudFront, and we kind of choose who we use based on the project, so that we benefit from not having all of our eggs in one basket on that sense. But for our deep storage for our VOD content, we're pretty much solely on Amazon.
Cool. Abhishek, you mentioned a lot of multi-origin and multi-CDNs, and what are your lessons here, and what can you enlighten the rest of the audience for lessons learned?
Yeah, so we also leverage S3, and we put our mezzanines on one bucket and have versioning turned on that bucket, and then have all the renditions, all the multi-bitrate renditions go to a separate bucket. And we also have like these hosted on different regions in Amazon. And plus we also send a copy over to Akamai Net Storage. So one, one potential pitfall from having these multiple copies was like, sometimes our encoder had hiccups, transferring content from maintaining the same copy in both places. So if at any point we had to switch over to the backup origin, we would have run into potential issues. So we had to be mindful of that, and we incorporated checks to make sure that we have exactly the same content in both places. As far as multi-CDN goes, we are on two CDNs right now, and one of the things is like for our CDN decisioning, we're using NS1, and they essentially still rely on the download of a GIF file as a measurement of the performance of your CDN, at any given place in time as part of the radar, right? So it's not necessarily like a video download. So it would be nice if we're looking at alternatives to having like actual QoS or QoE metrics powering CDN decisioning and switching. So if that is something that can be incorporated, that would be very powerful, in my opinion.
Excellent.
I have to thank you there, Abhishek, because we enable that. So basically, if you can add the viewer experience into the mix, and you can, let's say you can see as your viewer would see, and then you can detect when you have those encoder issues, and you can know in real time, and you can switch, then you can make those decisions in real time and avoid affecting subscribers. But also you can make those decisions based on latency and closed caption, any other variable to maximize the viewer experience. And as we talk, for fast, that's fundamental. You want to keep the viewers engaged, and you don't want to throw a macro blocking event in the middle of your programming, because that obviously would be costly. So that's part of what I think technology is going to, and what we would like to believe that the video experience automation would bring. And it's just it really helps. And migration from on-prem to cloud, we are seeing a lot of activity there, because people are moving to the cloud, but then the question is, how's my quality in the cloud compared to on-prem, and in their specific circumstances? Or can I move one channel? Can I move it back and forth? And all those questions on when you don't have a reference, or you need to compare qualities in two separate workflows. I think we're getting there, and I think that the technology, at least what we're offering, helps making those decisions, and we're very excited about that. I think that the big winner would be the viewer, because the experience they get, but for ad kind of funded kind of content, we believe is going to have a tremendous impact, because then monetization is going to increase.
Perfect. I think it's time for a few questions that I actually seen popping in from the audience, and I think they have a place here now. And I think the first one is it's actually mentioned primarily for Abhishek, and that is around the priorities of deliveries that were talked about earlier when it comes to HLS and Dash without DRM and all these type of things. So how do you handle the different variants that you need to support for your devices?
So as of right now, we're primarily delivering on HLS, and we are in the process of DRMing our content, but we're not there yet. So life's a little bit more easier right now.
Okay, so you're getting away with HLS, and you're limiting your options a bit there. That's a smart move. We have another question that I think is quite interesting, and maybe I'll turn to Jack for this one, and that's how to automate the metadata extraction with AI and machine learning. And is that something you're working on, to extract metadata from the ingest point?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, what kind of metadata are we talking about? So are we talking about informational metadata about the underlying content, like cast, crew, and stuff like that? If that's the case, certainly I think that's probably low-hanging fruit for anybody who wants to program it. I haven't looked into a technology vendor who does it yet, but I'd imagine, so most of these titles are going to be on GraceNote's database with TMS IDs. We leverage GraceNote for that very reason, because for FAST especially, most people require TMS IDs. So potentially a moot point, if you do have a TMS ID for your title, then that will suffice. But if you're trying to pull, other informational metadata from your content, yeah, I mean, if it's online somewhere, then certainly. If not, then maybe a little bit tougher, I'm not sure. But as far as pulling media info, we have automated that pretty effectively, and that's part of our core tech stack. Whenever something comes in to ingest, it just automatically gets media info pulled and stored as well, which is very helpful, because especially for Cable Labs metadata, you have to give a lot of information about your master file. So it's helpful to not have to pull it up every time you need to produce it.
Abhishek, Carlos, anything to add around the AI metadata extraction topic?
So we use a couple of places. One is like we try to find the exact point in time in the video where end credits start, and we want to show video recommendations, what to show next, or right at that point, so as to not lose the viewer. So for that, we've been using AI for essentially like a OCR, basically, to just find out where exactly at what time the end credits start rolling, and associate that with every media object. So our recommendations can be shown at that time. And the other point is like we've been extracting like metadata about about a particular video, relying on the the captions which we already have in a text form. So we send that through like a natural language processor, or like a metadata extractor, which just picks up all the keywords and categories and concepts, using that text content. So that's been powering our recommendations and search too.
Yeah, and actually one thing to add before you move off, as far as doing smarter ad monetization, we recently partnered with a company who is now going back into our deep cataloging, contextualizing all of our content with contextual ad tags that then get kind of sent over with the content, so that potential ad inventory partners will essentially pay more for the space. So something to keep in mind too, as far as monetization.
We have one question coming in here that is aligned a little bit with one of the topics that we haven't got to yet, and that is cost analysis and selection process for cloud offerings. We have mentioned most of you working in the cloud, and then how do you determine which of the cloud vendors to use and which are the services when it comes to a cost analysis point of view? Anyone feel that they want to answer it?
I can do a pretty high level. Reliability first and foremost. So are they in good standing in the industry? Are they reliable? Do people like using them? Understanding what your growth will be, like how much business and content do you do now? How much are you going to do in a year, 2 years, 3 years? Because nobody likes moving off of the cloud that they choose, because it's so hard to set up, from the first point that you don't really want to be switching often. So doing that, and then also assessing based on your growth that you perceive that you will have, do they offer discounts for the more business that you're doing with them? That was pretty much the 3 criteria that I look at.
Abhishek or Carlos, do you have any comments?
I'd also add in, how well or how tightly our other vendors are coupled with each of those different cloud offerings. Particularly say something like our encoding partners or our CDNs. If they can handle an origin, say in GCP or Azure or versus an S3.
I agree. My comment was in that direction as well, is that sometimes we consider the direct costs of cloud, but then the integration with other partners and the whole workflow ecosystem can have several additional costs that are unforeseen at the first point. And the other would be the cost on the viewer experience. Again, we're advocates on happy customers makes everyone happy. So just evaluate the quality and making sure that it's tracked and there's no impact on them.
We have a few more questions that I will skip for now because I think we're touched upon them almost answered them. And if you feel that the people that ask the questions, if don't feel that you answered, just reach out to us directly. I will round off with a little bit look at the future and what it has in front of us. So I would like one of you each to tell me a little bit of what you see in the future and what is coming around the corner. And I think that will be a nice round off for this panel. So Abhishek, maybe you can start off with what do you see in the future?
From a video experience, video product wise, I can see more interactive video, things like watch parties or, social viewing, where there's more engaged audience. Things like Amazon recently launched interactive video services, I believe, which they use from Twitch. So that's one. And from a technical perspective, I can see a lot of computing happening on the edge, particularly on CDNs, so that you'd reduce your latencies and provide a better user experience.
Jack, what's in your crystal ball?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Abhishek. I was going to mention that way more social viewing. So viewing things like on watch parties where your friend doesn't need to be sitting next to you on the couch, you're still watching something with them. I think there's a way bigger push. I know we're doing one ourselves. We're for our direct-to-consumer, we're building watch party into all of our apps. But yeah, I think that certainly just a way bigger social element. I think people are going to start really pushing the needle as far as blurring the lines between a social network and streaming application. So that's kind of from the design standpoint. Yeah, as far as just overall, I think that there's a lot of ebbs and flows in the business. It seems like, 1 minute somebody wants to own content, another minute somebody wants to rent, somebody wants to get it for free and just watch ads all the time. So we will see. I'm sure, like all trends, it's secular. So we may see a resurgence in people owning content. But I think fast is here to stay for a very long time.
I tend to agree. Carlos.
Yeah, I agree. Social viewing.
Words.
Yeah. Social viewing, I think, is big, and it introduces some challenges because if you have latency, if you have issues, they're amplified, right? Like if you don't want to hear someone scored when you haven't seen it, and then people would just be very vocal about what's going on. So I guess we're more exposed than ever, but I think we have the opportunity to provide those experiences and keep everybody happy in 2 devices. I think most people now watch content with their devices in their hands and just interacting with content. Now, from the ad perspective on monetization, I find very interesting that there are going to be more interaction between the ads that you see on your main device and how you react to them in your handheld device. So what about if you see an ad that you like and you're given the tools to just check it out and see what promotions they are? So I see also that there's going to be more interactivity there. I think augmented reality is going to be also kind of gonna take to another step. And well, I think that bottom line, those experiences are gonna be be making a big difference. But I think that's where we're going. From the workflow perspective, I think that those viewer experiences as an automation to make workflows decisions is really going to be the driver for technology in the next few years.
Excellent. I honestly believe that we had a great discussion during this hour, and I'm pretty sure we'll come back in a later seminar or exhibition to see if our predictions were right, and if there are new challenges. I'm pretty sure will keep us busy for a couple of more years. So
hopefully we can get together and have a beer. The winner can we can have a beer together.
Leave the word to Eric.
Yeah, the loser can have a beer. Everyone can have a beer.
Yeah, all of us got one. I was surprised I didn't get a Drizzly ordered to my apartment, actually.
Yeah, we're slipping. Thanks so much. That was a terrific panel. We've got our next panel coming up in just about a half hour on enhanced sports and esports experiences. Thanks so much, everyone. And thanks again to SSIMWAVE for sponsoring this panel and to Signiant for sponsoring all of Streaming Media East Connect. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
When the director calls action.
And action.
When the game is on.
Pick it up, it's good.
Or it's time to save the universe again. Media Shuttle is there. Trusted by more than 25,000 media companies, Media Shuttle delivers, making it easy and secure to send any size file anywhere fast. The journey begins with Media Shuttle portals, customized and branded for any project and designed to be so easy, your end users will love it. All while giving operations teams complete control through a simple yet powerful admin interface. Add users, set permissions, customize file delivery specs, and report on all activity. Blast off with proprietary acceleration technology. Media Shuttle moves your content anywhere in the internet-connected world at hyper speeds. Along the way, your files are protected. Our commitment to enterprise-grade security has made Media Shuttle a preferred tool with Hollywood studios, major sports leagues, broadcasters, and more. With Media Shuttle, your files are never handed over to Signiant. File movement is orchestrated between the end user's workstation and your storage, whether on-prem or in the cloud. Your IT team simply provisions your storage, connecting it to the Media Shuttle cloud service, and Signiant handles the rest. Get started on your Media Shuttle journey today, a journey without limits.